Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cynical Marketers, episode 41. Thank you for being here with us. This week, we're going to talk about a Reddit thread that we found on marketing on Reddit. It's the dumbest things a client has ever said to me. Nada and I have been going through this, and it's hysterically funny to us, and maybe if you're a marketer too. And you don't even have to be a marketer, because there's been people who, any clients. And if you're on the client side, maybe you want to listen to this too, because I bet you've said some of these things to some of your partners.
Yeah, they have. I think I've been on the client. I've been on the client side. I've been on the client side enough in my career, Mike, to confirm that I've heard some of these things said. I personally would like to think I've never said them, but maybe. So this is the thread that kicked off all of it, right? And this person said, I'm battling and shortly to fire a particularly difficult client. Said client runs a photography course. Client has achieved some success through SEO, exclusively self-taught from Neil Patel, who is the only SEO worth listening to, he told me. So, and we love us some Neil Patel. We have some opinions there too, but we may not touch on those. I was hired to help improve SEO and conversions for not enough time per week. Client is a royal pain in the ass telling me you have total control, going silent for a week, then reappearing and micromanaging everything. He also wants to report direct ROI for every single action on a monthly cycle. I'm trying to explain that remedial on-site SEO and backlink building, while vital and time-consuming, is not measurable in short-term revenue gain, but rather long-term traffic and revenue build over months. Doesn't want to hear it. Now it gets good. Anyway, I found a very effective landing page for a site that sells painting courses. It's well-written, visually effective, with a compelling benefit feature statement, transparent pricing, and a clear CTA. Excellent work. I sent it to him with the words, "This is the sort of thing I believe we should be doing to improve conversions." His response, are you ready, Mike? I'm a photographer. I'm not a painter. I cannot retrain as a painter in order to sell painting courses. And you're the marketing guy doing SEO. How do you respond, Mike?
I mean, it's, business owners, this is how you guys are, a lot of you out there. You didn't read the whole email. You just responded to something. You never do, And yeah, what's the ROI on that? We have this problem in marketing because of digital stuff over the, and measurement and attribution in the last 15, 20 years, where we used to be able to track and measure everything. You get business owners who hear snippets of things too, right? And they watch some videos online and hear some things and they're like, we can track everything. And it's not that way so much anymore, but they still like, what's the ROI on that? And what's this? And business owners, obviously, you're successful. You've built a business. You've done stuff. So they're very confident always. And that they know everything. And they know everything. And they know marketing because I built this business. Look at where we're at. I built this. So I know how to market too. And maybe sure. I'm not saying marketing is rocket science, but man, this is just so funny. I'm a photographer. So
how do you even... I read this and I was cracking up, like when we were talking about, what we wanted to share, because we've seen these things and we wanted to talk about in this episode. I don't even know how you would respond to this. I would just be like, I'm not suggesting you change your whole career path, like just sending this in as an example. But this is, we've dealt with, I think, similar things.
Yeah.
From clients.
I mean, like your relationship and your time with this client is coming to an end, and I know over the last many years now, consulting and working with lots of businesses, I know immediately there are red flag statements that come at me where you're like, oh, well, we're about done working together, like when that, there's things that they'll say and you're like, what? Well, that doesn't make any sense. And you're like, oh, yeah, you're mad or something, like some guy told you something else. Or in our business too, you'll be working on something and every other agency, your current marketing people are the dumbest people ever. And the people trying to get your business now are the smartest people ever. And then, and business owners are always going to look for the next best thing. So then now they're just talking to a new agency and they'll be like, these guys say you're not doing blah, 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 right? Like, what do you have to say about that? And you're like, I don't know. Okay. What? Like, of course they're crapping on me. They want me fired and they want to get hired. So yeah. Right. I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
right.
Your time with this guy, when he says something like that, it just, you know, they don't value your opinion. They don't want to hear anything. They have their own thought in mind. And I know there's another thread on here that is exactly that, because this is so common. I've done countless videos joking about this because of how common the attitude is. The next one that I love, right? Well, there's this one here that I just love. There's a couple. We want a lifestyle brand website for our mortgage company, something like Reddit.
Because Reddit is such a lifestyle brand.
So somebody replied to that. We want a sort of round.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It doesn't actually, it's so funny because I think we see this with clients a lot. And I've seen it actually on both sides. Like I've seen it as a client working with an agency, working in an agency, working with clients, and then freelancing and contracting for years on end. You hear people will hear buzzwords and they won't actually know what they mean. So they'll just throw them in there. Like there are many things you can think of when you think about Reddit. Lifestyle website is not one of them.
Right.
Lifestyle brand
and what
is not one of them.
And you're a mortgage company, so you want us to make what? Like, you think you're going to have some kind of a discussion section with people coming in to post, or like,
no.
Okay, let's say we copy Reddit directly for you and we just make a Reddit type website for you. To what end? Like, what do you think is going to happen? You love what you do because you're in this business, but do you think like people out there are like, man, I got to get on that mortgage guy's website and see what's been posted there today. I'm sure there is some hilarity, you know?
Yeah, no. It's so funny too, because it's like, think about when you work with a mortgage company, like how often do these guys in reality, like unless they're doing some commercial, like, you know, working with some commercial developer or something, like how often do you really get like repeat business? You know, why? Like, why would you even need I didn't get that one. Like that was,
and we know this, and I know this from business owners, and you know, we are too business owners.
Right.
There's a lot who have an overinflated sense of how important it is, of what they do and what it means to people. And that's not to say your business is bad or anything like that. But you know, you're doing a good job. You provide a good service to people, but people don't really care. They're not connected to it like you are. You know, so they're like, well, we're going to put this stuff out and it's going to go viral. I'm like, no, it probably won't.
No, it won't.
You think it's great. And this is great information. This thing you are talking about is perfect for your industry. But, you know, like it only matters to the people it really matters to. You know, there's really an overinflated sense, again, of how important people think this stuff is. The owners think everything they do is life or death. And it is for them.
For them.
Not for anyone else.
It's interesting though, too, because it is, I have found, and I think you and I have both found this, a lot of the times working directly with owners is managing the work is almost as much work as managing the egos, you know, and just like that inflated sense of self for sure. Yeah. And the one thing, and I know I'm going to read this next one, Mike, because I know this one is your favorite, because we have heard this time and time again, right? And we've declined working with people over this. And over the years, I've heard this everywhere. But here's your favorite. I know this one, that you will love this one. Client, I want you to do the marketing to get more sales. We're not getting enough sales. Me, the product is great. So we'll need to experiment with different marketing strategies. Client, great. Get a plan together. Me, pulls an awesome plan together. Client, no, that's not how it's done. I've done the marketing here for 10 years. No, he's nothing even close to marketing professional. You just keep doing it the way I've been doing it, but get better results. I know that one is that is your favorite. Y'all, if you're not watching but listening, if you guys were not watching this but listening, you should have just seen Mike's face.
That one is one of the more common things I encounter coming into a business. This idea. You know, they'll tell you in like your, you know, discovery meetings and calls and stuff, like how we want fresh ideas, a fresh perspective. We need your outside eyes, your experience. This is all great. We need a bunch of new ideas. And then you do that and they're like, ooh, not like that. That's not on brand for us. That's not how we do things. This is so common. You know, really what they want is someone to come in and validate, an outsider to come in and validate the things they've been doing already. They don't want to change because change is scary. Businesses don't really want new ideas. They don't want fresh perspectives. None of them do. Last week, we had Dan Gershenson on, right? And he talked a little bit about this too, because he does consulting, and people don't want the new ideas. And that's why you get industries who will say, you need 5 years of industry specific experience. And you're like, why? So that you can hire someone to come in and say exactly the same things everyone else says so that you all sound the same all the time? Because it's scary to be different and people don't like it.
Literal definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And we've had,
we talk about that all the time, right? When companies say we want to grow sales. And you're like, okay, well, if you want to grow sales, like, hey, what you've been doing to get to this point, this is great. This is what got you to here. But now to grow, you're going to have to change and do something different. Because if this other audience that you haven't yet converted was going to convert, they would have on this stuff you were already doing. They're not. So it takes some different kind of a message. Something else needs to happen to convert these new people. So you have to change. It's not going to just happen. They don't want to hear that.
It's really hard on the retention side too. It's really hard on the retention side too. And sorry to kind of jump in there and talk over you. We do that a lot, I guess. But like,
that's how we are.
The thing, we just had this with a client, right? Like with the new client we just started working with, where we were looking at what they've been doing on the retention side, which was just beating the crap out of the email and SMS list with multiple messages a day. And it was a batch and blast. And then, I had to sit down and say to the client, like, look, I'm going to hold your hand and hurt your feelings here, but this is not a long-term strategy. And while you may think that this is now generating you more revenue, what you're really doing is actually causing damage to your list, that when your list needs to perform, like coming up on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it won't, because you beat the crap out of it, and we won't get delivered. You're going to start marking as spam. We need to scale the sends. We need to segment more, but I'm not going to get the same sales. Maybe short term, we'll have a little bit of a slowdown, but we have to keep a long-term strategy in mind here. You want to be in business for the next 10 years, right? Like not just the next year. Then we need to be strategic about what we're doing. When I worked at collections, we had the CMO there who was insistent to our retention team that more emails meant more revenue. And we were forced occasionally to send up to 3 to 4 emails a day, which I'm like, this goes against everything that is best practice for retention. And then you're dealing with somebody like a CMO who absolutely could not wrap their brain around it, right? Which is our next thing on this thread.
In that case too, I thought it was so funny when you were doing that stuff, because that list was so big too.
Yeah, it was millions of people.
Email 2 and 3. Email 1 hadn't even finished sending to the whole list, and now here comes email 2, and you're like,
email 2 and email 3, and
like your current guy too, he was sending so many too. He's like, well, this one is the best. The fourth one performs the best. You're like, what's, your attribution on that, I think, is kind of
right. Well, that's
I've joked about that too with people. If you get X amount of sales from one email, then if I send 10, I will get 10 extra sales. And you get so many people who fall into that trap. And
they really
the
do,
way
but
like
that's
that
because
current
they don't understand the attribution.
Your current client, like you said it here, because this was one of my questions about the strategy. I'm like, well, I guess, if you're going to send that way, what is your goal? And where he's like, well, I still want to be in business in 10 years. I'm like, okay, well, then you need to change your thinking. Because if it's short term, like, let's just grab all the sales we can from this in this time window where this product is going to work, then okay, blast away. Grab every penny you can. But if you're really trying to keep a brand and grow it, then if you're going to do that strategy of just blasting all the time too, you need to do the other side and make sure that you're refilling your pipeline, which businesses don't often do too. Like, hey, you need fresh stuff coming in, but it really is about your long-term goals, right? But people don't connect those things. Like, what's my sales today? What are my sales today?
Yeah. It's interesting too, though, because one thing I want to bring up when in regards to that, and then we'll go to the next Reddit, which is also like thread, which is also like one of my favorites. And I know it's yours too. You know, when you use platforms like Klaviyo, Attentive, Postscript, anything to send emails and SMS messages out, any platform, you need to understand the attribution of that platform. I find that so many people just don't understand it. They don't understand how their attribution windows are set up. That the reason that your third email in the day to the same list looks like it's performing the best is because it is the latest one sent. So the platform is automatically going to attribute all the revenue to the last thing that you sent. It doesn't actually mean that that is the email that performed the best, especially when you're sending to the same list over and over. I mean, it's just, that's, you know, I always try to explain that to people. Like, do you know what the attribution is set up in this platform? Do you know if it's 3 days or 7 days? Do you know that you can change it? So that if you are sending emails daily, you know, or, you know, however you actually do emails, what is the campaign cadence? What are we doing here? How are we setting up the attribution? Because that is the discussion that I think is important to have. And most people just don't even get it. They think that the revenue that they see next to that particular email or SMS as results is all driven from that campaign. And it's not when it's sent to the same group. But, you know, it's always fun too, because we talk about how titles in companies sometimes don't mean anything. And this one cracked me up, Mike. I consulted for a major travel insurance company in Australia. Their marketing director on multiple six figures asked, what is organic traffic?
Yeah, marketing director, I know. Marketing titles are just thrown around to everybody. Yeah. Marketing director, you know, is probably also the Helen in HR, you know, who's one of my favorite characters I always talk about. You know, they post on our social media, so they're our head of marketing. You need to go through them. Like, you're the outsider, like, and you and I have been in marketing for long time and worked with lots of clients and had lots of success and failures too. We're not perfect for sure, but you come into one of these businesses from the outside and they're like, you need to report to this person. And you're like, this person doesn't know anything. This person here is your roadblock. They're a gatekeeper. Yeah. And I always know this too, how badly a relationship and a consulting engagement is going to go by that person. Who is it that I'm talking to? Because a lot of times too, if it was that person who thought they were going to be the head of marketing, if you're coming in from the outside, they don't want you to be successful. Yeah. Because I might get fired now. Like, they don't want that. So you're like,
yeah. And we've talked about that in other episodes, right? Yeah. And we've talked about that in one of our other episodes where we've said, like, if you're coming in as a consultant, the thing that you need to ask, you have to ask this: who is currently doing this job? Because there is a solid chance that the owner is going to be like, oh, no one is doing it. That's why I'm hiring you. Meanwhile, you know, a salesperson is posting on social media and they love that part of their job and they don't want to give it up. Right. Or like, you know, we always joke and we say Helen from HR, but it's because we've seen this happen where people do take parts of the roles that you as a consultant coming in would take over and they don't want to give that up. You know, I've seen that especially when I worked for Noggin. And we had clients where we brought in a client that was two separate brands. And then we were taking over their marketing and they gave, like, it was the worst client to be on their account because they hated every single one of us because we were a threat to their jobs. And they were right. They were not wrong to hate all of us. Like, that was the intention. The intention was to, like, we knew that from their president, that the intention was to fire them and let them go and keep the agency. But we couldn't say that. And they knew it and they made our lives hell. Like, it was just awful to deal with. You know, I think also the one on this thread that I loved was when working with like creatives and somebody said, oh, I have to pay you extra for revisions. You know, that is, I think, one thing we've learned the hard way. If you're doing anything like a website, build a store website, Shopify, whatever, build in the number of revisions, be very specific in your statement of work, because, oh my God, the way that scope creep is going to come up on you. And I've had people call me, you know, at all hours of the night. Like I just told you, like about yesterday, right? Like somebody called me at 10:30 to make a change to their website, 10:30 p.m. to make a change to their website. And it's just because it's an emergency to the client does not mean it's an emergency for me.
Right.
Don't call
Look, we
me at
do want to be
10:30.
responsive, but like 10:30 at night,
Like we want to
look, we
be
try to be very
responsive, but
responsive.
come on. Yeah. I don't know, but I love some of these. These are like really my favorite. We've had all kinds of crazy stories all on our own, but these are great, you know?
I try now, like, to have one approver
Yeah.
that you're working with in a company. And even that doesn't solve a lot of the problems because they're probably going to go back to the committee still anyway. And
Yeah.
especially, in marketing, we work with, most of the time, we're working with stuff that are the most visible things for a company. Their social media and their website. These are the most visible things. Everybody sees it and everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
everyone knows what to do, what we should be doing. Everyone has a thought. So like when you do a website for somebody, Helen in HR is going to have some thoughts.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, hey, here is the first, draft. This is based on our discussion and, kind of our outlines and things. And then there's going to be 28 people who have an opinion. This color needs to be a little darker. Is this the right font? And you're like, look, and you're trying to tell people like, hey, none of that is really going to be a driver,
Yeah.
but you'll have those problems and everybody's an expert all of a sudden. You will never, I think I've said this because, I've done a lot of video for people. So I do video and editing and I say like, hey, I'm not too bad anymore. I think I've gotten much better over the years, but if you think you're good at something in marketing, show your work to someone who doesn't do marketing and they'll tell you why they're 10 times better and why your idea was dumb. Everybody has an opinion on what you do. And we're one of the only ones who has that. Nobody looks at an accountant's, tax return for your company. Helen from HR doesn't have opinions on your company's tax returns and how things were categorized and filed, right? But if you show Helen a video we're going to post on social media, now she's got 28 opinions, Now she knows everything.
This is another scary trap too. Like this is, and we've run into this in client calls occasionally, but this one I like too. It says client asks for a complete digital marketing strategy within 1 month. Says he wants to hear everything, even if he doesn't agree to proceed with it. We work on said strategy, deliver on time. Client tells us he already knew everything in said strategy. And he actually wanted tactics in a marketing plan to grow his revenue X in 6 months time frame. Fires us the following day. The comments on this subreddit were all like, I bet you he's still using your strategy, right? And so this is, I think, another learning one for everybody. Don't do work for free for people. Like, don't offer somebody a strategy. Do not go and present a strategy. Like, that one is a surefire way. And the 10X in 6 months just makes me want to punch somebody in the face. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on a podcast, but I don't. 10X is not a thing, you guys. I know you've heard it from Cardone and the like. But nobody is 10Xing anything for you in 6 months. That is an unreasonable request. And quite frankly, like this is, like Mike has said this on our podcast before, we tell people marketing is hard and it takes time. And it's no wonder clients are not knocking on our door because most of them just want to hear the 10X in 6 months, right? Or shorter even. We've heard people say it.
Not the reality.
Yeah. And so, like, I think anytime you get asked by a client to do a strategy, to present them a full detailed strategy, run, unless you're getting paid. Like, yes, I will give you a strategy, but I need you to pay me for it. Here's my fee for that. Do not do work for free because, and anytime a client tells you that they want to 10X something, just run. Like you're not going to have a good working experience. It's not a thing, especially in established businesses. Just run unless they have like an insane budget. All of a sudden they can like blow through millions of dollars in ad spend or something. Like you're not 10Xing a thing. So it just, anytime, I feel like anytime a client tells me 10X anything, I'm like, run, abort mission.
Yeah, you're an accountant. You're an accounting firm. Like, how are you going to 10X? Yeah. Like, I worked with a client in Florida a few years ago that was an 8-figure business. They were doing 8-figure a year. And that, it's a family owned business. The CEO second generation, he had a goal of doubling revenue in the next 5 years. And they didn't have a marketing department. And I've done this. This is something I've done for a lot of businesses where they grew word of mouth or with an outside sales team. And now we want to establish a marketing department. Like, okay, like doubling in 5 years, lofty goal. Here's some things you're going to need to do to make that happen. And then they're like, I don't know about that. Like, well, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah. Like, you know, are there new, you're going to have to do stuff to double revenue means you're probably taking it from some other business out there.
Right.
How are you going to do that? Or are there new clients or new potential customers being created? Is there a new market out there? Do you have a new product that you're going to go into? And even in that case, you're still going probably into some existing thing because you haven't invented something new.
Yeah.
So if you're going to grow, it's at the expense of somebody else. Like, you have to do more things. Sales just don't happen. But business owners are like, we hired marketing. Why aren't we selling more? You guys are the gurus. Well, here's what you don't want to hear, man. We put it out and it had 1 million views. People just don't like you. They don't want your stuff. That's the bottom line, my friend.
Yep. Yeah.
We can't market our way out of a bad product.
Right. That is always a hard conversation because that's another one that I saw on this thread too, is like, we published XYZ on the website. Why isn't it selling? Right. That's like walked right in. Like that's that exact same thing. And it's like marketing, like, you know, you're not just because, and we've had this several times where people are like, but we have a website. We don't understand why our product isn't selling. What are you doing? What are you doing to promote the product? Do you have paid advertising? What is your organic traffic? Like, what is your organic strategy? We have a client right now that hasn't posted anything in 3 months on socials. We're gearing up for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. My dude, like, you got to start posting. I bring this up in every weekly check-in, right? You know, and then it's just on us. It's like oh yeah, I know I need to do that, but then you don't, you know, and it's just been so interesting. And I think like what this has shown me too is like across the board, we're all as marketers having the same experience. And then when I see folks on TikTok or LinkedIn talking about how they can 10x things, I always feel like they're so slimy and they're the reason that our jobs are significantly more difficult. In the past, it used to be if your company grew, 3 to 5% annually, you were successful, because these these taglines of 10xing now are making every business owner think that it's normal that after 10 years in business, you grow 20 to 30% a year, without doing anything new. By the way, that's my favorite part. It's like, we're just going to keep doing everything we're doing. We're not going to increase ad spend. We're not going to do anything else. We're not going to do anything new, different. We're not going to try anything, test anything, but let's make sure we have 30% more in revenue. What?
Your revenue targets next year went up by 30% and nothing else is changing. Okay. Do I have a budget?
Yeah. Like, did my budget go up 30%?
You just need to,
no.
You need to get more effective.
Yeah. And
ChatGPT said that we can.
ChatGPT, my favorite.
Yeah.
Yep.
I asked Chad, it said wild. We can grow 30%.
Yeah.
So
I think like cautionary tale for folks out there who are like us, if you hear 10X run, share. By the way, also, I would love to hear from other people, like some of the crazy things that they've heard. I know we've just barely touched on it. We could make like 10 episodes about this. Like, tell us like the craziest stuff you've heard from a client.
Owner, hey, tell us. I'd love to hear business owners too. Tell us some crazy things you were promised.
Yes.
By an agency.
Because we've heard that too.
I'd love to hear that. We're going to do an episode. We have an episode in that we're planning that is going to be called Crazy Lies Agencies Tell.
Yes.
So we're not just looking at business owners here. We know on our side of the business, there's a lot of shady and nefarious characters out here too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're aware. So we are going to do a whole episode looking at our side of the business too.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be fun.
All right, everybody. That was fun. We enjoyed this. Cathartic for us.
Therapy
letting
session.
Us vent a little bit. Yeah. We appreciate it if you're still here. Thank you for listening to us.
Yes.
Tune in again next week.
Lance.
Yeah. Thanks, Lance. We appreciate you listening. Anyone else? All right, tune in again next week. We will see you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.